started, and we will begin from chapter 18. Is that right?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Yes. And Sylvia, could you please read this small passage aloud?
Okay. When the great Tao is abundant, there is human kindness and righteousness. When wisdom and intelligence are put forth, there is outrageous falsehood. When the six relations are in disharmony, there is final pretty and paternal love. When the state is necessary, there appeared loyal ministers.
Thanks.
I try my best, sorry.
That's good. No worries. And any questions and comments? And the first question Sylvia asked is, what is Tao? So now after 17 past chapters, can somebody maybe answer this question? How should we begin? It's a good question, right?
I mean, to my understanding, the Tao is like the sort of like the way of the world or the universe. It's in some sense like the natural course of things, but it's not just like nature as we understand it. There is like a metaphysical quality to it, something like just, I guess, like more real than just what we see. It's like the underlying like structure or form of the whole world that gives it some sort of like meaning, I feel. That's how I understand it, at least.
Something to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that has been associated with the Tao frequently is this idea of it being eternal and unchanging, it being constant. Besides that, I don't know, I think we've had sort of a question about to what extent Tao is to be associated with emptiness, and to what extent it is a principle that is higher than emptiness and fullness. Or at least I had this question. It's not entirely clear to me. Because sometimes it seems like it's being associated with like a feminine principle, a principle of like openness and creativity and things like this. And other times it seems like it's superior to like a polar value, like the feminine or the masculine.
Thanks. Katya, you already always understand this.
But it's hard to describe anyway. Yes, it's eternal. And there's also this kind of infinity to it. So it's everywhere and everything, but you can't name it, you can't touch it, you can't really grasp it in a normal sense. Because it's above the normal things we are experiencing here. Because normally the world has like a two-dimensional thing, like described in the yin and yang thing, and this is beyond that. Just
Thanks. And I think one point I also want to add is that he thinks if there's a God, so it seems to him that Tao seemed to be earlier or prior to God. So kind of like timely, earlier and later, even if we are talking about God, according to Laozi. And here about chapter 18 a little bit, then if the Tao is like unfolded itself fully, so this should be a very good state, the world and also the society. So it's kind of like all the problems seems to be the absence of Tao, kind of like to only to what extent. Does that this answers helps a little bit?
Yes,
Yes.
a little bit.
Okay, thanks. And any other questions or comments to this passage 18 then? So I think the one of the biggest, if not, I will give a little bit. I will give a comment. So basically, here the biggest like dispute in the history is what's Laozi's position to benevolence and righteousness, which is the central concepts of Confucianism. And then some are those who are a little bit sympathetic to Confucianism would say righteousness and benevolence are also very good. So, but they are not the perfect state. So when the big Tao is abandoned, then we come to this also very good state, but still already not the best state. This kind of like one way how to interpret it. And the other ways then, like say, Laozi has a very, very negative attitude towards benevolence and righteousness, which he thinks is human and then not natural. And then it's a very fundamental critique on Confucius. Basically, those two kind of like different way of interpret this passage. Further comments?
Yeah, I don't have a super fully formed thought on this passage, but I'm thinking of, so there are, 4 different conditional statements here. And the first two seem to me to be of sort of a different order. I feel like we've heard, I think in chapter 2 it is, something very similar to the second conditional. When wisdom and intelligence are put forth, there's outrageous falsehood. In chapter 2, if I'm remembering right, the idea was that when the beautiful is known, the ugly is also known. I don't know if this rings a bell for people. So this doesn't sound too too crazy to me, basically, within the framework of what we read so far. And I mean, yeah, when the great Tao is abandoned, there's human kindness and righteousness. That also doesn't sound so bizarre to me, just because attaining the Tao seems quite difficult. So it just seems like a descriptive sort of claim about the world, that it's very difficult to stick to the Tao. And so we have this sort of like remedy, this like pharmacon of human kindness and righteousness. But I don't really know what to do with the final two conditionals.
You mean you so the first two you find it's just rather coherent to what we have read, right? But
coherent, and it doesn't seem particularly hostile to Confucius. I mean, I don't know Confucius very well, but like it just seems like sort of repositioning Confucian values within the context of the Tao.
A good way to put it. So basically, then you tend to the first interpretation, like right here, like Charles' position is exactly the opposite from yours. He says, so the history, the history and philosophers who interpreted this passage were deeply influenced by the like established Confucianism. So then they find, okay, it's good. Like but according to Charles, it's a rather radical criticism on Confucianism. I think he has his point exactly in the, of course, also in the first and the second passage, but also in third and the fourth. So basically, according to Confucians, the people, because the families and or the society is not in shape. Why? Because according to them, the 6 relations are not in shape. So the task of scholars or even of everybody is to get those 6 relationships in shape again, which are between father and son, husband and wife, and brother and older brother and little brother. This is one way, like in the light of a family, and in the light of the state. So the king and the ministers then should work together, especially the minister should, if they are loyal to the king, and the chaos of the state should be overcome. So that's basically which Confucians are claiming. But here Laozi seems to say, okay, just because you want to make the 6 relations in harmony again, in that you emphasize filial piety and parental love, and so on and so forth. So you make the 6 relations in disharmony, or you get more away from them, or from the goal that you are in mind. I don't know. So according to this direction, so then Charles is where Charles is coming from, and exactly the opposite as what you said, Skylar. Or the differences is to be seen.
Yeah.
And the second one is kind of like a critic on sophistry or on wisdom and intelligence itself. So that's I think what's interesting for me.
Just an idea. I'm also not really sure about what it's really about, but I have the feeling that all these 6 relationships. I'm also looking at the commentary on the first part of the commentary at the moment. It feels like if everyone embraced the Tao, there would be no need to promote those ethical doctrines. And with those ethical doctrines, these are like borders, these are like fixed, sort of fixed things. And the Tao doesn't like fixed things, fixed borders, because there's always a flow happening. So I think that's the contradiction with the Confucius ideas and the Tao. And also, if you have intelligence and wisdom, some people might think they are better than others, and this promotes ego, and ego and Tao are mortal enemies. Like, they don't work well together. If you have too much ego, there is no access to the Tao. You can't. It's not working. So you have you're putting up a show or whatever. So that's what I'm getting from this text.
I think any response to what Katya said?
I could be wrong, but it's just what I'm reading in this text.
For me, the first point is really interesting. So the problem of benevolence and righteousness is they are like kind of like fixed conceptions, right? So the problem of this approach is you give them something a name which is nameless or unnameable, or you fix something which is fluent, right?
Yeah, but also, as a kid, you're supposed to obey the rules of your parents, and the parents have to love their children. And there's this in the way it's in the description here in the on the commentary especially, it sounds like you have to do it. You're like, as a child, you have to obey your parents. So there's like a fixed quality to it.
Rigid, right? It's kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
human-made,
yeah. And those kind of rigid
artificial.
borders, that's the thing that the Tao doesn't really like, because it fixed. You can't look to the right or the left. There's only one way. But the Tao is never just one way. There are always different options for different situations. Of course, a parent has to tell their kids, oh, it's cold outside, put a jacket on, and stuff like this. Of course, there are things where parents have to say, kid, do this, and the kid has to do it. But on other levels, on other topics, it's like, my dad was forced to learn a different occupation because his uncle said so. It wasn't the one he had chosen. He had to do something completely different because someone told him, you have to learn this. So, and this parental guidance, yes, it's important, especially with younger kids, but then there are topics where it's too much. It gets rigid. It gets like, just as an example.
Okay. Any other response to what have been said? No?
Does it make any sense for you, or is it just me? Okay.
This makes sense, yeah. Or
So
a
there's
little
also
bit,
like a black and white. It's like,
bit too modern, but
yeah.
yes, otherwise it makes sense, yeah. Further comments, questions about chapter 618? If not, then we go to 19. Anybody willingly to read this passage?
I can read it. Reject sageness and discard knowledge, and the common people will benefit hundreds of times. Reject human kindness and discard righteousness, and the common people will restore familiar love. Reject smartness and discard profiteering, and thieves and robbers will disappear. These three are inadequate as mere embellishments. Therefore, we should tie them to their roots. Stay with the plain silk and embrace the pristine timber. Reduce selfishness and abstain from desires.
It sounds like it's directly related to what we just read with number 18.
Exactly. So last time I see it's a cluster, at least how's that? We endlich have a cluster to understand the subject better.
Kind of the supposed solution to the problem of number 18. Somehow.
In how far do you see that? Why you say that?
I mean, I'm not reading this text as a black and white thing. It looks quite black and white at the moment, but we know there's no 100% black and 100% white. There's reject sageness, discard knowledge. Of course, it doesn't mean you have to forget everything you know. It's just like,
sorry, my question is, why you say chapter 19 and 18 are related?
we just had a talk about human kindness and righteousness and say knowledge things and stuff. Wait, let me go back to 18. So when wisdom and intelligence are put forth, there's outrageous falsehood, and that's line 3 and 4 from 18, right? And now in 19, we've got reject sageness and discard knowledge, and the common people will benefit hundreds of times. Reject human kindness and discard righteousness. So it's like the 18 is like the critique, and the 19 sounds like the solution.
Oh, okay.
That's where I'm coming from, without having put much thought in it, but it looks like the yeah.
They are about the similar concepts.
Yeah, just written from the other side, basically, from the other point of view.
Any other questions? For me, it's most difficult part of this sentence. These three are inadequate as mere embellishments. Therefore, we should tie them to their roots. At least the Chinese part, I cannot understand it at all.
Which line is specifically the third? This is third last, the second last, or the last one?
These three to their roots.
Yeah.
And I can read another translation. These three being false adornments are not enough. And the people must have something to which they can attach themselves.
I could even throw in a German translation if you want, but
Please, go ahead.
darum lehrt die Leute, zum Schlichten und zum Echten zurückkehren, wenig wollen, nicht viel begehren.
Nicht diese zwei Sätze, sondern die zwei Sätze davor.
Oh, that guy here has different things with the inadequate embellishments.
Yeah.
Bitte?
Or I read the whole thing and you can.
Ja.
Schafft ab die Heiligkeit, verwerft die Klugheit. Die Menschen werden hundertfach gewinnen. Schafft ab die Güte, verwerft die Rechtschaffenheit. Die Menschen werden wieder einander lieben. Schafft ab die Geschicklichkeit, verwerft die Gewinnsucht. Keine Diebe und Räuber wird es mehr geben. Denn all
Yes.
das ist ein Schmuck und taugt doch nichts. And then the last three are, darum lehrt die Leute, zum Schlichten und Echten zurückkehren und ewig wollen und nicht viel begehren.
Darum lehrt die Leute.
Yeah. But it's an old one. I've got here somehow. Bought it years ago. But it's similar quite to the Charles translation on this part.
Any other questions, comments from the group?
I mean, I guess this just feels much more aggressive than 18.
A bit.
Sorry, Katja?
A bit, yeah.
Like putting sageness, knowledge, human kindness, righteousness in the same sort of set of things as smartness and profiteering. Yeah, it just seems much more provocative than the previous passage, and makes Wu's sort of argument that it's a radical critique of Confucian values that's in play here seem more persuasive to me.
Yeah, and also use this word like reject, right? Discard, reject, and yeah, just strong.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
strong.
and the last sentence is also a puzzle to me. This reduced selfishness. We've seen this word before. It's like it was translated earlier as like private matters, and abstain from desires. Because it's in the first chapter, right, that we have this description of like if you reduce your desires, then you see the profundity of the Tao. And if you maintain your desires, then you see its borders. And I think we were talking about how both the borders and the profundity are necessary to see. And so it doesn't seem like a straightforward critique of desire. But here we're getting, what seems like a straightforward critique of self and desire. And just this like selfishness. Earlier, the talk about the sage and the ruler and their relationship to them, their selves, seemed more complicated, more ambivalent than just a straightforward rejection of self and desire. Which is just to say, I don't understand the status of the whole chapter, the whole of 19. Like it just seems like maybe there's some kind of dialectic relationship between it and the more moderate passages.
Yeah, I think maybe in relation to that, what I found interesting is that the structure of the tree, the first 6 lines are like reject something good, and therefore you will get something good as well. And especially like the word in the second line, 名利百倍, the 利 is also then something that is to be rejected it's the word for profiteering.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a straightforward kind of just get rid of all the good things, and then you will sort of like I feel like it's not a Hegelian dialectic where you go onto a higher level of like concepts. So it's not like you combine both good and evil to reach a higher state that includes both. But it's like it's this flux thing that Katya was talking about, that you will still need to use the word li over here as is shown, but
Yeah.
then like it really depends on like the different contexts, and it's not just a straightforward kind of thing of like get rid of all these terms.
I also think because ego and overcoming the ego and the borders ego likes to place on people. Because if you always do the right thing, if you have too much stuff, money, wisdom, and these are always or kind of ego triggers, because if you just overdo it, then you are strengthening your ego and you can't reach the Tao. Maybe that's why he put in reject the smartness and discard profiteering. With thieves and robbers, it's maybe a bit metaphorical, or in the direct sense, I don't know. And it would also fit with the last 3 lines. Therefore, we should tie them to their roots, stay with the plain, with the simple silk, and just, use simple stuff, selfishness, and
I
yeah.
think, Katya, this passage maybe would be the strongest, one of the strongest evidence for your claim that Laozi means selfless, like abandon the ego, because the last sentence, just right.
Yeah.
So it's such good like support for your claim, and I know this claim is very central for you.
It's not a claim I made up. It's something I heard a lot of times. So it's not my idea. I heard this idea a lot of times, that the ego is not the evil, but because ego wants us to stay in the same box, do the stuff we were always doing, to not change, to always keep on doing what we are doing. And if you want to leave the box, then the ego starts to fight in various forms. So
But that's now you are saying something like kind of out of the Lao's text, right? But I just mean, in any sense, this passage is a very strong support to your belief, or to what you have heard several times, and you also
what I was taught, basically,
yes.
from a Tao master. So that guy should have more knowledge than I have.
Further question and comments about 19?
I have a question about the second last line, the embrace the pristine timber. What does pristine timber mean?
So What's the English word here means? Can you explain please first to me? What's pristine means and what timber means?
Timber is like the wood or the wooden log that I think, I'm not sure, I think timber is after you've cut it down, right? Or it's like a resource to be cut down. So like wood to be used for like building houses or like furniture. And then pristine is just something in like perfect condition.
Okay.
Untouched.
Untouched.
The direct translation with Google Translate of pristine timber is unberührtes Holz. So again, something simple. Following up with the plain silk. Even though silk sounds fancy for us. No.
So that means you should be as a child all your life. You know?
You are right, in fact, Sylvia, somehow. That's really Laozi's claim. Can you say more about why you say that?
Muss ich in Deutsch erklären?
Dann macht das.
Ja, okay. Ich habe da an Erich Kästner gedacht.
Ja.
Als ich hierher kam, habe ich ist ein kleines Denkmal von ihm da. Und da steht, er hat den Satz geprägt, es gibt nichts Gutes, außer man tut es. Genau. Es gibt noch einen zweiten wichtigen Satz, den er gesagt hat. Er hat gesagt, nur wer erwachsen ist und ein Kind bleibt, ist ein Mensch. Und es geht so ein bisschen in die Richtung. Also wenn ich unschuldiges Kind bin, dann kann ich wirklich rein sein. Ne? Also sonst dass die Erfahrung des Lebens machen, dass man eben anders denkt. Genau, also dass man verdorben wird oder wie auch immer das nennt.
Ja.
Ist jetzt übersetzt worden alles?
No, that makes perfectly sense. No, don't worry.
So if no further questions, we go to next chapter.
I think I have one comment or question. It feels like that there are two sort of like strands over here. So this idea of like being like an innocent child, or like going back to the roots, or with like plain silk and pristine timber, it's a more sort of like primitivist kind of strand. But then there's also this like dialectical strand that we talked about of like things having different meaning in different contexts, or like something is never just really one thing or complete. And it feels like there is some sort of conflict there. So like, because I feel like the dialectical kind of understanding would seem to sort of point to a certain kind of like pragmaticism somehow. Like you use the term means what it means in this context, or like things depend on what their time and place. Whereas the primitivism thing seems to say like, oh, we should go back to the most simplest form of existence, of being.
So are you saying it's kind of ideas is unnatural and naive, or what do you mean with that?
I feel like that is like these two ways of like reading the text, and that they both lead in different directions. So if you were to follow the more like primitive naturalistic strand of the text, then you would be more like, I don't know, go back to a simpler form of life, abandon a lot of the things of civilization or whatever, use simple words, or don't use words at all. Whereas the dialectical one would sort of say like, no, you still have to use them. You still have to have like a certain, maybe like a certain sort of like ego, a certain body. You still have to like, there's this passage that we talked about, like caring about the world, because caring about the self, because so that you care about the world. So you still need to care about the self and the world and whatever. It's just to not do it in like an extreme or like a really stubborn sort of way. So like be in flux, you know.
So never too much.
Like I feel like the flux way would like be more akin to like Heraclitus, and then it would be hard to read Heraclitus as sort of a primitivist, maybe. At least I'm not familiar with any reading of him like that.
Any response to that?
Yeah, I don't know if I understand your concern entirely, but I'm just wondering if the sort of the triple command to reject can be understood through the framework of this talk about returning to the roots, if only because this word roots reappears. Therefore, we should tie them to their roots. And this cyclicality of like the life cycle and things like this. And whether that's a kind of primitivism that involves something that feels dialectical without without losing a certain kind of like naturalism or something. But I don't know if that's on target at all.
Yeah, I guess that would sort of like resolve the contradiction that I was sort of seeing. And I think we had like a passage last week about what this cyclicality means, right? Or it's about something about that if you push something to its extreme, it will turn into its opposite. And where is? Oh yeah, it's chapter 16.
Yeah.
Right. So if that's the constant, and that's like sort of this like natural state of things, then there is an inherent flux to it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
You mean here we also have roots, right? So in 16 we also have roots. But in fact, the same Chinese character does not appear in chapter 19, it's only translation, I think. Anyway, it's very good comments. Shall we go to chapter 20?
Sounds good.
Is there anyone willing to read it aloud?
I will go. Bye.
Sorry, what did she say?
She just say goodbye.
Okay.
Have to go. I have to get my bus. So
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a nice
See
night.
you. Bye.
I can read 20. Give up studies and you'll have no more worries. Yes, sir, and How far apart are these? Beauty and ugliness, how different are those? Whoever people fear has to fear the people too. Vast and boundless, everyone is out having a great time, as if enjoying a great feast, as if climbing a terrace in spring. I alone stay quiet and show no sign of action, innocent like the unsmiling baby, wandering like not knowing where to go. Everyone has enough to spare, I alone seem deprived. It all has to do with my fool's heart. The world thinks everything is crystal clear. I alone am dull and dumb. The world thinks they are sharp and shrewd. I alone am simple and slow. Everyone has something useful to do. I alone am incorrigibly stupid. I alone am different from everyone else and choose to be nurtured by my mother.
Curious. Katja, would
Yeah.
you like to read the German translation?
I don't know, that German one is tough and some parts not so good, but I can try. So 20, the German one. Tu ab das Erlernte und ohne Sorgen wirst du sein. Wie ewig trennt Ja-Sagen von Heuchelei, wie wenig scheidet gut von schlecht. Zu fürchten ist, was alle fürchten. Ach, endlos scheint das Wirrsal dieser Welt. Die Menge drängt und tummelt sich, als ginge sie zum Opferschmaus, als zöge sie zum Frühlingsfest. Ich ruhe in mir still und ungeteilt, dem Kinde gleich, der Mutterbrust noch nicht entwöhnt, ein Heimatloser, der nicht weiß, wohin. Mehr als sie brauchen, haben alle. Ich allein vertue, was ich hab. Mein Herz ist eines Toren Herz, einfältig dumpf. Die Menge liebt den Glanz, ich allein liebe das Trübe. Die Menge liebt die Unterscheidung, ich allein liebe das Unterschiedslose. Ruhlos wie das Meer, ziellos wie der Wind. Alle tun, als wären sie von Nutzen. Nur ich bin störrig wie ein Tölpel. Nur ich bin anders als die anderen und schätz die Nahrung an der Mutterbrust. That's it.
Thank you.
I don't know if that's helpful with German ones.
I think
Same.
it's using a different Chinese text, right? Because there are like the lines about the wind and sea that I can't find here.
Yeah, I think this is not. I just use it at the moment more for writing comments down and like a yeah. I don't know. I mean, here these translations are quite different. Sometimes they are similar. Sometimes they are just. I think the German text is sometimes a bit confusing.
I think the main difference that I heard was like with the line, the last two lines in the second passage, where I think it's the one that is in the commentary as well. So whatever people fear, you have to fear too. Whereas Charles here is he's using a different Chinese text, so he translates it as whoever people fear has to fear the people. And also maybe I think the first line of the second passage is also different. I think the German one was like ja and Heuchelei, right? And
Yeah.
here is totally different. It's like yes sir and
Mike, I have a question for this passage. So, what is the status of the first sentence? It's a central claim, or why is it there? If that's the case, then kind of like some of our most discussed questions is also attitudes towards learning, wisdom, right? Differences or something like that. So here, then he explained what he means to give up study or give up wisdom, right? So in order to explain that, he goes further, say, okay, even those extremes like beauty and ugliness, how much they are different, and like even feared and fairer, right? Maybe that's I just made these words. So one's active of action, and the other is like passive receiver of an action. What's the difference between them? Or how important is the normativity? Je nachdem, also Chinese, to like Aiden said, to different direction of the Chinese tribes, and so on and so forth. So maybe then the second passage and the third passage kind of like is a explanation or unfolding of the first elaboration of the first sentence, right? But at the same time, it seemed to me to be very, very then like too far away somehow. You can make that claim, but still not so plausible for me. So I wonder, what do you think that this is the relationship between the first sentence and the other parts of the passage?
It feels like for me, the first line is connected to the last two chapters that we've been reading, but also with the second passage. So there's not that much difference between like beauty and ugliness and the fear and the fearer and all that kind of stuff. Like I feel like there is some sort of connection there, but then I also don't really understand how that connects to like the third passage. That one feels a bit more different.
Well, you mean you can understand the direction between the first sentence and the second passage, right? But not with the third passage.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I would say if that's the case, and then the third passage is, so people still want to be respect everybody, so they go all to that direction. People still like craving after or craving towards, or I don't know, the beauty, most of them or all of them, right? But I'm not. I'm just stupid. So people just want to be the president, but I don't care. Or people are afraid of like the normativity, no, but I don't care. So then I just different from them. Then I go back to the mother, which is no knowledge, no study. So I don't have any worry. What about this kind of direction? Then the third passage and the second and even the first are somehow connected. I think Laozi has a point, like if you study something, you suppose A is there is a and you suppose there's a and there's a B and A is better than B. So you want to learn because then you think through this process, then you get something better, right? Or you yourselves become a better person, and therefore get more respected, right? And so on and so forth. So if you say like every music is the same, so why you learn music, right? Don't need to do anything anymore. You just choose a song and listen to it. What you like. That's it. And you don't need to learn. And so of course you don't need to go to school or just enjoy the time. Maybe I talked too long. And did that make any sense? What I've said?
I mean, I think it makes sense. But then I also just still have the feeling like there's something with the third passage that is a little bit out of jive with the rest. But I'm also not really sure if I can formulate that thought.
In fact, that was also my feeling, right? So I somehow suggest in this way or another, try to make it a whole.
Mm. I guess maybe it's also still related to the earlier question that I had, in the sense that if there are no different, if there's no difference between beauty and ugliness, between like the two opposites, then why is he being like so positive about what he's saying? So like he's saying like quietness and showing no action and being innocent is good. Like, yeah, it feels like, so he's making like a claim of like something is better, but then at the same time also saying like the two polarities, not the one nor the other is better than the other. Like, and it feels like there's a sort of like contradiction there.
I think that's we already said that, right? Twice, 3 times. The first is the best is the highest good is like water because the water goes down, right? And the second is just you said discard the sageness and wisdom, so the people will get the benefits, and then this after two sentences discard benefits also. And here you are saying the third, like in the whole you wrote this book is you just want to tell us something better, right? And then you say there's no difference between good and, or what's the you ask us what's the difference between good and versus same, he thinks there's little difference. So then why you wrote this book, and what's the difference of your thought and the other people's thoughts, for example, who just have the chat over the dining table, right? I think you're saying something like this, right?
Mm.
And I think the Chen Guying's comments is really relativistic here. Sky, do you have that? It's in fact short.
Yeah.
The last one of chapter 20.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me just. Starting with the commentary and explanation. So, abandon
Yes.
learning and be without yo means that a person can be free from disturbance by abandoning alienated forms of learning.
I mean the last passage, I think, I don't know what's the English translation called. So modern translation part is gone, right?
Yeah.
And this, anyway, the last one just shortly before the 21st, chapter 21st.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think it's called argument. Yeah. In Lao Tzu's view, value judgments which determine what is noble and humble, good and evil, right and wrong, or beautiful and ugly, and so on, are always interdependent and mutually generating. People's value judgments often vary according to historical conditions and change under the influence of differences in the environment. Ordinary value judgments are volatile. That is why Lao Tzu decides what difference is there between them. Such value judgments may be utterly indeterminate, but does this mean that we can all act whichever way we please? Not at all. We cannot but remain on guard against what everybody else is wary of. There's no need to go out of one's way to cause offense. Next, Lao Tzu explains the differences between his attitude towards life and the value orientation prevalent in the world. Ordinary people rush to and fro and lose themselves in sensual and material pleasures. Lao Tzu, on the other hand, enjoys preserving an attitude of detachment and indifference, and is only interested in making spiritual progress. In this respect, Lao Tzu reveals his feeling of estrangement from the crowd. Yeah, I don't know. I find this a very difficult passage, and it seems very ironic to me. Or there's like maybe it's just an artifact of the translation, but the tone seems really playful and indirect. Like, not just that he's making fun of everyone else having their fun, but it seems like he's making, or the speaker, whoever that is making fun of himself in this position. I mean, yeah, of course, I don't know the cultural context of how a line like the final line would land, but choose to be nurtured by my mother sounds, like a man child,
Yeah.
And of course, you can read the mother as the Tao or something, or some kind of divine feminine, but I think there's also this ironic edge to it.
In fact, like this passage, as if climbing a terrace in spring. Also, right? Everybody thinks that's beautiful and good. I think that one is really good, right? It's not some materialistic gain or something like that. You can almost you can hardly like associate any negative stuff with that, but still Laozi seems to be see that is bad. And interestingly, in the analect, I think孔子asks his pupils, what's your dream, kind of like what's you want to do if you are free to choose. And there are different answers, and one guy just says, I just want to climb a terrace in spring. And the breeze, and so and some young people just sing together when we come back. Like also the scene in the scenario in very similar to the scenario in Phaedrus, right? And after all students say something, Kunze also kind of comments to shows his attitude towards that. And after this one, Confucius, I agree with you. I align with you. So for Confucius, this was a kind of like a highest ideal or just a dream, and but here it's kind of like also for me at least it's Laozi target also kind of like Confucius again, but yeah, at least for me also I find it's beautiful, right? To go to the nature and also somewhere high, right? And have a kind of have a broader view of the nature, and also like Katya, right? Do some hiking.
Yeah.
It's just great, right? Why Laozi, even those Laozi can think it's good. Yeah.
I mean, is he attacking the Great Feast and the Terrace in Spring? I didn't I just have the translation here, but these are just sort of similes. Everyone is out having a great time, and that's what he's separated from. And what they're having a great time as if they were enjoying a great feast and as if they were climbing a terrace in spring. So I wonder if he's saying something like they're having a great time despite the fact that they're not even doing these uncontroversially good and pleasant things. Like they're just rushing through their lives, whatever, rushing to the bakery or something, and they think they're happy, but they don't actually. They're not even doing the things that are really worth being happy about.
So then you say because of this as if, right? Or as if is a little bit strong, but the word is just like they are. So you mean so basically the idea is real, but because they only have the appearance of it, right?
That would, yeah, just be a defense, I guess, of climbing a terrace in spring.
Yeah, but I think it would be hard to defend enjoying a great feast, no? Given like what he talks about, like taste, the 5 tastes and the 5 like sounds, and like it seems like he would be against that.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's against having a good time. It's maybe the attitude how you're doing it. If you're rushing it, or if you're just, you know, you're not in the moment, then you don't really experience the feast, the spring, on all its level. But if you take your time, maybe, and stay quiet and show no sign of action, then you have the chance to experience the feast, the spring, the climbing, the enjoying in all its diversity.
I think, Skylar, what you said seems to me like this. Laozi's those kind of position seems for you to be ironic, right? And you cannot take it literally or very serious. And but I think in the Chinese history somehow this was taken very seriously.
This feeling of alienation that he's expressing.
I mean, like even the last sentence, right? I alone am different from everyone else and choose to be nurtured by my mother or something like that. I think it's kind of like, or I will put it this way. We know Plato, right? A lot of people say here he wrote kind of one page about the gods, right? And some scholars just argue Plato is ironic here, right? And I think they also have some. It's some serious argument. But I have never seen some Chinese like in this way say, okay, here Laozi is ironic, like it's joking. No, I have never read something like that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's really dangerous to make arguments about the tone of a text, but it seems to me like it's one of two maybe main ways that you have to deal with a tension that's just in a text. Like the one direction that Wu seems to like to go down a lot is to talk about like the reception history of the text, and talk about how the tradition has basically affected how these things are read. And that, like, so he sees this tension between Lao Tzu and like Confucian virtues, and his answer is to approach through the textual tradition. But it seems like there's another way, which is just to think of a text as something which is essentially in tension with itself, which essentially involves a degree of irony in order to express things. It's just to say, I think they're two different ways to go about it. But and I'm probably projecting onto this passage, but it feels to me like a sort of like a very bitter expression of someone who's like very fed up with living in a society that runs on a high degree of subordination, which I think we've seen in other passages. This like desire to just not have to submit to someone else. but this like yes or an A, how far apart are these? This like bucking against having to submit to an authority. That it to me that goes hand in hand with something like an ironic disposition, like a bit of distance from oneself, a bit of alienation. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're touching like the historical background of Laozi or Laozi's time, right? And what is central concern? I think about that question. Especially politically. And this book is really very political also. It's kind of like some political philosophy sometimes.
Danke.
In that, and maybe today we don't have time for 21st, so I will shortly introduce a little bit my understanding of Laozi and his time. Basically, it was a chaos, and the old feudalistic model is collapsing, and a new Chinese model is emerging, which is still existing. It is still existing today. Kind of like Mengzi called it hegemon. And you can say power, political powers maybe, right? So just who's stronger than who decide, and everything. Not only he can have a little bit louder voices, but everything. So the old system, the king and the sorry, the empire and the king and the dukes and so on and so forth, and everybody has his own kingdom, and kind of independence is gone, and people fighting with kind of states fighting with each other. The hierarchy is emerging, which kind of like a central government of power, which is the Qing dynasty, and as I said, last until today. So, the Confucian answer to that is then we can look back at the beginning of our dynasty or of Zhou dynasty, and how everything was done, like the harmonic order was established this and that way. So if we go back to that, and we will be fine. But for Laozi, it's like maybe that we also thought is problematic. So it's even the reason why we are in to the state of today. So here, as you said, he kind of like so unhappy with his time and his people around him, right? Kind of like, I don't know. And his solutions to the situation was also kind of naive and very simple.
How so? Naive?
Later on, some scholar argue then Taoism as political Taoism is only important when between the change of two dynasties, when the society just want to like deconstruct the establishment, and when revolution is there, so it kind of like very often used later on as the philosophy of revolution. But once a new dynasty is emerging, so the rulers find out, no, this does not work again. So then they will re-embrace the combination of Confucianism and legalism. So then, and the exact same thing will be established. And like Laozi's simple, right, and small countries, and so on and so forth, pristine timber, something like that. Does not really work.
This scholar thinks that it's useful as a philosophy for the individual to sustain him or herself in times of revolution, or it's useful for a ruler who's trying to, or whatever political agents who are trying to operate in times of revolution.
Yes, I think the second one rather. And so, or a group of people say, okay, the established rule is bad, so he just has more this spirit, was rebellious, right, and so on and so forth. But this is a huge claim, I would say. And I also don't think it's true, in fact.
It's super interesting to me because it reminds me of debates in like Marxist theory about basically like the transition to full communism, what the state is there for, when you can, end or like exit the revolutionary period and stuff like this. So it's super fascinating to me.
Any comments to chapter 20? If no, then that's for today, right?
Sounds good.
And see you next week.
Yeah, see you all then.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I will be traveling, and I will not see you next week, but I'll see you the week after that.
Okay. You are traveling back to US?
No, I'm gonna go down to Athens to see a friend from the US who's gonna be.
Oh, Athens. Great.
Have
Say
fun.
hi to. Sorry.
Have fun.
Thank you. All right. Have a nice night. See you later. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Here. See you tomorrow, I guess. Bis
Yeah,
morgen.
see you tomorrow.